what do we consider in 5 words Brookwood Hills means to us. And for me, and I think Priscilla, Brookwood Hills is our soul.
It's hard to put in words. It's almost more of a feeling.
Let's see, great place to grow up, great place to raise kids. I'll go with 10 words.
Brookwood Hills is just a big community.
I think it is a loving community.
The friendships, I think that's a big one, and the beauty of the homes, and the trees.
We are very interested in the nature preserve, which is just an incredible asset for the neighborhood. So there are not many in-town neighborhoods that have 50 acres of nature preserve that they own.
The board decided to name the nature preserve the James Alexander Alex Summers Nature Preserve. And I felt so incredibly warmed by that experience, and that Brookwood Hills means everything to me now.
It's just such a well-defined neighborhood. There are only 3 entrances, and it's beautiful with the trees, and then we have the park and the pool and the tennis courts. It's just got everything.
At one time on the city maps, Palisades, this road right out here, was slated to be connected up with a road in Armour Industrial Park all the way across through the green space. And ultimately, that road is no longer on any map at all. And that's really important. That's one of the really great things about this neighborhood. It is a big cul-de-sac, if you will.
One of the things we did shortly after I was president was Elaine put the neighborhood on the National Register of Historic Places.
And we think that might be one of the most lasting things we did, because that's going to make a difference in the future.
And it's fun to live in a historic house in a historic neighborhood that has been around for 100 years, and I hope it's around for 100 more.
I recall one day I was at work and my wife called and said, "You need to come see a house." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll try to get away soon." And she said, "You need to come see a house." And I realized in that moment that I didn't need to come see the house, that I just needed to come sign the paperwork for the house.
I was brand new at Emory Hospital, and the nurse comes into the room and says, "I'm sorry to interrupt, Dr. Hopkins, but your wife is on the phone." And I thought, oh no, something bad has happened. She'd never called me 10 o'clock in the morning. And I went out and picked up the phone. "Are you okay?" I said, "What's going on?" She said,
"I found our house." And
I said, what did I said, "I didn't know we were looking."
And so I walked in and I said, "This is my house," and I bought it. I knew it immediately. So my husband said, "Now you're going to have to look at every single house in the area for the same price," which I did, and this was still my house. So I've been here a long, long time, and my children, I've raised 4 children here.
I moved in my house when Elizabeth was 4 years old, whenever that was. And the first thing my husband said is, "This is the ugliest house I've ever seen." But after we moved in, he said, "You were right about this house. It's the most comfortable house I've ever lived in."
Getting to obviously be with my family and getting to raise my 4-year-old son on the street that I grew up in has just been the blessing of a lifetime, to be 7 houses up, you know, from Mom and
Everybody here, every single person has a fascinating story.
We just kept getting robbed over and over. Mom just kept improving the burglar system, and they found Barry, and he caught the guy on the first night.
So Barry Miller might be my favorite neighbor. I mean, he was right out of Chips. I mean, it was 1986. He looked like he was in Chips, and he would, you know, drive around on his motorcycle. And back in the day, we got to ride on it.
And some of the kids that I put on my bike, my motorcycle, would ride around the block, grew up, got married, had kids, come back to the neighborhood and bought a house. I mean, that's how long I was here. But they were very good to me. Changed my life.
started as a lake, and then they enclosed it with some walls. It was a sandy bottom pool to start with, and now, of course, the pool is beautiful condition. The park's been redone, it's beautiful condition. It's the heart of the neighborhood.
My biggest involvement was when I was on the board. We put in the bulkhead in the swimming pool to have a swim team.
Kids sometimes get competitive when it comes to swim team, when we play Chastain.
Yeah, the swimming team was another socializing aspect to the neighborhood. But young children were really kind of the key to it all because they brought the parents together.
Like, my favorite thing is we don't make plans all the time, but you just know you're going to see people down there, so it's so easy. I mean, the summer, it is, you know, every single Friday night you are just going to end up at the pool, you're going to bring a cooler down there, you're going to let the kids order from the concession stand. It's 4 months of terrible eating, and you don't care.
My memories quickly go to the summers growing up and, you know, hopping on my bike early in the morning with my tennis racket attached and heading down to the pool for the entire day.
I've seen it all.
I know.
I've seen tree limbs fall on cars during a swim meet. We've had torrential downpours where in the park we end up having slip and slide races in the mud.
They have dog swim now, and our dog is part of the reason they have dog swim. Our first dog.
Westmoreland.
Westmoreland.
I spend every summer at the pool. Like, that's the only thing I do, basically.
It's reflexive to get involved, to do things together, to support each other, to find family-centered events for all of us to attend.
And we were doing a lot of these things before, but I do think when COVID hit, we all realized, oh my gosh, I would not have survived without this neighborhood.
The number of chairs that were set up in people's front yards so that they talked to folks going by, it was amazing. It was really neighborly.
My mom, unfortunately, was declining in health, and we would walk her around the neighborhood in a wheelchair every afternoon during COVID, and she'd at least get to wave at people, and just that everyone who you know, we passed would wave and say hello, and that's just the kind of neighborhood it is.
So Camp Cupcake was totally marketed towards these young girls with the intention of allowing them to do kind of all these arts and crafts that reasonable parents would say, you know, there's no way you're doing that in my house. There's no way you're doing that in my kitchen.
We have this competition, whoever makes like the best cupcake.
Yeah.
And last year, Baker's little sister won it.
Yeah.
1 year I won it.
Mine, Camp Summer Splash, is not quite to third generation yet, but it's
fine, it'll get there.
It's well within the second. I mean, we had our fair share of broken lamps at the house.
We didn't break any lamps.
Sorry, we had our fair share of broken lamps at the house, but that was expected.
I remember my sister having a camp in the backyard back in it would have been the late 80s. Fast forward to now, and my daughter is hosting a camp.
When I grow up, I want to run a camp just like Taft's camp and maybe take over his camp.
It rejuvenates. The parents leave, the kids come in, and they raise their kids, and then they leave, and their kids come in and raise their kids.
And we all just sort of take turns doing our part to keep the neighborhood special.
I think we do have something amazing with this neighborhood and hope to be able to preserve it.
And I just hope they can maintain that level of community that they've always had.
The character of the neighborhood, no doubt, will be passed along to the future generations that choose to move here.
I just hope that everyone who kind of moves into this house as people leave and people move in doesn't just want to live here to own a house here. Like, I hope that people continue to come in and be excited to get to know their neighbors and to be excited to get to interact with the community and kind of continue to place that emphasis on the magic that can really come when you do focus on the community and not just your house.
I think it just is always going to be a sanctuary for people to live and be close to the city and great community. I think we're just lucky to be here.
This neighborhood's a community of people who love each neighbor.
It's got everything as far as I'm concerned. And yet it doesn't feel like, Brookwood Hills doesn't feel like a big city. I'm in a small town in a big city. I just don't see how I could have any better place to live.
it is really a hidden treasure.
I don't care what kind of family you have, married, single, separated, widowed, divorced, children, no children, it is a perfect place for a family.
It is kind of like a big family.
There's a lot of nice places to live in Atlanta. There isn't another Brookwood Hills.
And Atlanta is such a place, I feel like there's so much big, and I think Brookwood Hills gives you the gift of small.
Sometimes neighborhoods have young people in all the homes, and then they grow old together, and then you have a neighborhood that's full of old people in the neighborhood. And Brookwood Hills has always had a full range of ages. I think continuing that real mix of ages is a very big positive for the neighborhood.
I do think that is one thing that makes Brookwood Hills special, is the multi-generations that are here in the neighborhood.
It's a good community to live in, and they're just good people.
But the highlight of our neighborhood is the neighborhood band.
So Goat Rodeo is a band that formed almost about 10 years ago, made up of 6 people, 5 of which are neighbors.
Who all have day jobs, thank God.
And it's our midlife crisis band.
So how long have you lived here?
My whole life.
I've lived here my whole life.
And how long is that?
Let's see.
7.5 years.
Yeah, 7.5 years.
It was 82?
I think it was 82.
Okay, yeah. That was a big snow jam, and my mother, it was unfortunately her day for carpool at school, and so she picked us all up, and it was also band day, so there were a lot of instruments in the car, and it took her over 6 hours to drive home with all the neighborhood kids. And I just remember my sister pushing the wagon up north side, you know, getting her hand stuck to the bumper. and all the rest of the kids were in the back playing their trumpets.
I
And,
remember Ed Helms being in the back seat.
Yeah,
and,
playing his instruments.
Just incredible 7 hours, and we didn't have cell phones. So no one knew where their child was until we got home at 10 o'clock at night.
And Janie insisted on driving each kid to their house, and that tacked on another couple hours to get everyone to their house. And